Hi everyone, I'm Elizabeth.
And I'm Lizzie, and today we're going to be discussing two big ideas that really connect to teaching elementary math. So, first, the differences between inequality, equality, equity, and justice. And then, second, just in time versus just in case scaffolding.
Yes. All right, so let's start with the first prompt that we were given. These terms get used interchangeably sometimes, but they actually mean very different things in education. Inequality is when students don't have the same access to resources or opportunities in the first place. I mean, for example, in an elementary math class, inequality might show up if some students come in with a strong number sense from early experiences at home, while others haven't had that exposure to like counting games, math talks, or even consistent preschool.
Right. And that equality isn't something that the students caused, it's tied to larger factors.
Yeah.
Now, equality, on the other hand, means giving everyone the same thing. In a math classroom, that could look like
Hmm.
giving every student the same worksheet, or the same amount of time, or
Yeah.
the same exact instructions, like regardless of where they are academically.
Yeah, and I mean, the problem is that equality doesn't account for differences in readiness or need. I mean,
Hmm.
if teaching multi-digit addition and we give every student the same set of 20 problems, that might be equal, but it's not necessarily fair. Some students may already understand place value deeply, while others still may be working on regrouping.
And that's where equity comes in. Equity
Yes.
means like giving students what they specifically need, like to
Hmm.
succeed. And in that same math lesson, equity might look like providing base 10 blocks for students who need like visual or concrete models, or
Yeah.
like offering like challenging problems for the students
Mhm.
who like a challenge and thrive better when they can like extend their thinking. Or it
Yeah.
could be like giving sentence frames for students who need like support, like explaining their reasoning. And it's just like they're all doing essentially the same thing, but you're giving them
Yeah.
different resources to help them get to the same end result.
Yes, exactly. And then with justice, it goes a step further. Justice isn't just responding to differences, it's more addressing the systems that created inequality in the first place. In elementary math, justice might look like examining our curriculum and asking whose experiences are represented in world problems. I mean, are we only using like culturally narrow context? Are we just assuming certain background knowledge for those students? I mean, justice could also mean advocating for access to the intervention services earlier so that those gaps don't widen as they move up in grade level.
No, literally. And I love that
Yeah.
distinction because so if we're like think about it as like progression,
Hmm.
inequality is the unfair starting point, and
Yeah.
equality gives everyone the same thing. Equity adjusts the support based on the need, and justice
Mhm.
tries to like change the system itself so that inequality decreases.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that this directly impacts how we plan like the math instruction. If we only aim for equality, we risk unintentionally reinforcing those gaps. But if
Hmm.
we plan with equity in mind, intentionally build differentiation into our lessons. And honestly, this kind of reminds me like this whole process in my student teaching classroom,
Hmm.
we in math, she changed the students' worksheets, not like she didn't change the context of those worksheets, but she changed like the accommodations to it so each
Yeah.
student was able to do like what they could do without having that gap in between. So that's kind of what that reminded me of.
No, that's
Yeah.
like exactly what it is.
Yeah.
And that connects really well to our like second prompt about
Mhm.
scaffolding, specifically like just in time versus just in case.
Yes. And I mean, so just in case scaffolding is when we pre-teach or basically front load a lot of supports before we even know whether the student needs them. For example, before starting maybe a word problem lesson, we might review every single vocabulary word, model multiple examples, and over-explain strategies just in case someone struggles.
Yeah, and the intention is good,
Hmm.
and we don't want students to fail. But
No.
sometimes just in case scaffolding lowers like the cognitive demand, if that makes sense,
Yes.
of the
Yes.
task. It can like prevent students from grappling productively with the math, and
Yeah.
they're not trying to figure it out on their own because they already have all the resources.
Yes, it was already given to them. Just-in-time scaffolding happens during the lesson, in response to what students are actually doing. So, for example, if we were doing a number talk, if a student struggles to explain their strategy for, I don't know, say 58 plus 27, and instead of reteaching addition to the whole class, we could ask like more targeted questions like, oh, what would you do with that 50? Or how did you think about the 7? Not just necessarily focusing on that addition part, but maybe focusing on like the place value of those numbers and what you can do with that as well.
No, exactly. And that's
Yeah.
exactly it. Because just in time
Yeah.
scaffolding, it's more responsive and it
Hmm.
requires like strong formative assessment skills,
Yeah.
like really listening to the students' thinking and like stepping in strategically when you know you have to.
Exactly. And in an elementary class, like a math class, it just in case scaffolding might look like giving everyone a graphic organizer before solving a problem. However, just in time scaffolding might look like noticing that only a few students are confused about where to record regrouping and quickly modeling that piece with them while the others continue to work.
And I think that also ties back to equity too. If we
Yeah.
over scaffold just in
Hmm.
case, we might unintentionally communicate like low expectations. But if we
Yeah.
scaffold like just in time, we maintain like high expectations and then
Mhm.
provide the support exactly and precisely when we know it's needed.
Exactly. And that's such an important point. Just in time, scaffolding respects students as capable, like mathematicians. It assumes that they can engage in complex thinking, and we step in only when there's evidence that they need support or they're struggling.
Exactly. And from a lesson planning perspective, this means we have to anticipate where misconceptions might arise, like
Hmm.
especially in areas like place value, fractions,
Yeah.
or even like multi-step word problems. Like we don't
Hmm.
necessarily pre-teach every like possible difficulty.
Yeah. Instead we plan more purposeful questions ahead of time. So, like, for example, if we're teaching fractions on a number line, we might anticipate confusion about maybe a denominator meaning, but we don't reteach division before the lesson. But we do prepare ourselves for questions like, oh, or we do prepare ourselves questions. For example, like what does the 4 in 1/4 tell us? And then go off from there.
Exactly. And so lesson planning then becomes more like about anticipating thinking
Hmm.
rather than scripting every single support. And that allows
Yeah.
room for like the student's voice and like productive struggles.
And I think both prompts really connect through this idea. Equity requires us to be responsive of the student's needs, and just-in-time scaffolding is one way we enact that responsiveness in real time.
And ultimately, like teaching math isn't just about delivering the content. It's about
Yes.
like creating conditions where all the students like want to and can engage meaningfully.
Hmm.
And that
Yeah.
means like recognizing inequality and striving for equity or like
Yeah.
working towards justice and scaffolding in ways that maintain rigor while providing support.
Exactly. And that was just very well said. When we approach lesson planning with those lenses, we're not just teaching math skills, we're shaping a classroom environment that values fairness. Mostly fairness, access, and high expectations.
And that's kind of like the math classroom that we want to build too.
Yeah, of course. All
Yes.
right. Well, thank you for listening.
And
And
we'll see you next week.
yes, we will.
Bye.